Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome
Good evening.
to my 60th birthday party. Okay, can you, is that... I want to go where the sun shines through and life is gay and free, where I love everybody and everybody loves me. Said I want to go where the sun shines through and life is gay and free, where I love everybody and everybody loves me. I want to go where the sun shines through and life is gay and free, where I love everybody and everybody loves me. There is a healing place, a blue light shimmering in the darkness, a diamond in the velvet of the night. Here, broken glass is mended, and tears form silver streams. There is a place, a healing place, of song and silence, where I love everybody, and everybody loves me. Sing with me. I want to go where the sun shines through and life is gay and free, where I love everybody and everybody loves me. Said I want to go where the sun shines through and life is gay and free, where I love everybody and everybody loves me. Okay, so my name is Monique Ngozi Nri, and welcome again to my 60th birthday celebration.
Happy birthday!
I made it. Woo! And when you hear the story, you'll be more impressed by that. So this has been a dream of mine to do a show that I was out front on. I have been singing with Ahmed for about 25 years, quiet as it's kept. But I've always wanted to do a show of my own, so I'm really thrilled to be able to do this. So I put together a little slideshow of pictures of my past, and this is my mommy and my dad getting married. Now, they met as students in London. One was from Barbados, the other one was from Nigeria, and they conceived me and got married and went to Paris for their honeymoon, hence my name, Monique. And they went for their honeymoon in September 1959 and had me on March 29th, 1959. And I was the first baby to be born on Easter Sunday in Chelmsford in Coventry. So I found the ship's log for when we traveled to Nigeria, and it was exactly 6 months after I was born. So you can imagine that my mum was really brave to take me on this journey, and her mother was not at all impressed with the fact that she was going to Nigeria in 1959. So we got on the boat and we went to Nigeria, and my Uncle Claude, who was my father's best friend, came to see us off on the boat. This is my Uncle Claude right there, and I'm doing something to my father's face. And he at some point turned and ran off the ship. He didn't look back because he was leaving his niece and he was leaving his sister on that ship, the Oriole, on the Elder Dempster line going to Nigeria. So, although Uncle Claude never went to Nigeria, my dad did by himself, and the next picture is of my granddad and dad together. So, we're now on the boat to Lagos, Nigeria, and we're going from the coldest England to the warmest Lagos. I don't remember much about that time, as we lived in the north of the country. Anybody who knows anything about Nigeria, does anyone know anything about Nigeria? Does anybody know the three main groups in Nigeria? Ra.
No, well, I don't know. Igbo, Yoruba, and...
So the Igbo, the Yoruba, and the Hausa. The Hausas live in the north, and they are Muslims for the most part and very traditional. So my father was sent to the north of Kaduna to work on telecommunications. It turned out to be a very lucky thing for him when the Biafran War came. It may have saved his life. So I had a very happy childhood. There were four of us, me, Mary, Cyril, and Debbie. Three of them were born in Nigeria. So we did travel back to the UK in 1961 when my father went to school again. But he was one of those Africans who was always determined to go back to his home country to build it. He always said to us, you should never take a grant and go from your home country and then be one of those Nigerians that you always need to go back to your home country. So, the song I'm going to sing for you now is an Igbo song that I learned during the war. Eye ainge wembiri, ainge wembiri, ainge wembiri, bisike. Ainge wembiri, ainge wembiri, ainge wembiri, bisike. Ainge wembiri, ainge wembiri, ainge wembiri. If you've never eaten powdered egg, you will not know what I mean. If you've never wished, prayed for vultures to go away, you will not know what I mean. If you never called your father uncle because you last saw him 10 years ago when his face was creased with smiles and not with grim weariness, or scrambled across tabletop as bombs dropped and windows shattered on that military target, your home. If you've never seen a woman, an ordinary orange seller, still running as her head rolls down the street. If you've never seen that woman, an ordinary orange seller, still running as her head rolls down the street, you could not understand that liberation is fought for by a whole people, that fighting is more than words, that dying is less frightening than living control. and Dad and Mum went to work as usual. And that day I'll always remember because it changed my life entirely. The Nigerian soldiers came to our house looking for my dad, and my little sister Debbie was home alone. They came looking for Dad, having already killed hundreds of Igbos in the north of Nigeria. That day, we left for the east. I think Daddy may have been in the trunk of the car at some point, running to save our lives in what was known in the West as the Biafran War from 1966 to 1970. It was the first war of its kind to be televised in the US and Europe that way, and the pictures of the starving children with Koshioka still haunt me today. Terra firma. Feet firm on the ground, rooted like ancestors and calm beside the sea of stormy protest and hurricanes. Terra, land of mine and going home across fields where feet are blown to other lands. Firmer, solid, packed earth, feet to walk on, in spite of quake and other low-lying rumbling, 5 fathoms down. Who walks with me on higher ground? Terror, firmer, who knows the certainty, free and unfree, clear, yet not clear, truth and not true, terra firma. In these times. And it says that you can look at truth in 4 different ways. To embrace uncertainty, we have to perceive the same events, feelings, and arguments in different ways from others. They represent our truth. What's in dispute when we disagree with each other is the conclusions we draw and the distinctions we make. These ways of knowing come from 4 main sources. From the inside out, where they are shaped by our personal beliefs and convictions. From the outside in, where they are negotiated and have to be agreed to. From the top down, where they are received as authoritative, verifiable evidence. From the bottom up, where they are shared by a group that has selected the most useful to guide their day-to-day interactions. The problem with exploring multiple perspectives is that they can all be true at the same time. We all bring our unique history and perspectives to understand what is out there. These assessments can cause conflict and discomfort as we experience our normal flow of life breaking down. Initially, we see other ways of thinking as wrong, but when we open our minds to alternative ways of knowing, we can accept that there are many versions of the truth, and we choose the ones that work best for us in the moment of our lives. So that poem, solid earth packed to free to walk on, in spite of quakes and other low-lying rumblings, 5 fathoms down, who walks with me on higher ground, terra firma, which is both free and unfree, clear and not clear, truth yet not true terra firma. When we left Nigeria in 1969, I was 9, and we flew to Portugal and then to London to stay in my Aunt Gwen's house. She was my favorite aunt, and she would have parties later and stand on her one leg and whine to the music. So my daddy was in London when the war ended. But as I said before, he was one of those people who was always going to go home to his home country. So he went home on a plane, and he did not know if he would be shot when he got to the airport on the other side. Nonetheless, he went, and as a result, my parents' marriage ended because my mom was none too thrilled with the idea of her husband leaving her with 4 children, the prospect that he might be killed. My father started another family. So there are 3 boys and a girl in that family. They are Chidobe, Tobechi, Obinna, and Eziaku. So I'm the leader of a tribe of 8. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any pictures of us as younger people, but we all talk with each other, and we went to our father's funeral together, and it's one of those transatlantic relationships that we keep going. So the Biafran side was beaten in the war, and at the end of the war, it was said that there were 1 million Igbo children and people who had been starved to death. The tactic was that they stopped any food coming into the east, and that's the way that they won the war. But after the war, that continued, and so in all, it was a genocide of about 2 million people. So when I say I made it, I'm serious, I made it. Did not win. Though if our rising sun shoulders had beaten them off, the others, would we really have won? All those Kwashioka children flashed on screens around the world, and limbs lost to shrapnel, landmines and scatterbombs, made and sold by mothers and fathers who loved their children. and sit at the dinner table, wiping away tears that scrape knees. What if there were no me? What rage then? It's not in our backyard. We were not beaten in our house, lashed occasionally with that table lining named the balasa. More fear in fetching it from its special place than in receiving lips. At this age, I wonder why it didn't find its way into the garbage. Probably for fear of something heavier and less flexible than the sharp sting of plastic, shoes, or anything to hand. Much easier if you knew the instrument and could turn to avoid anything that really hurt or showed. Do you know what beaten is? Life turned onto a different track. My father told me against his culture that I could do anything that I wanted. Gave me curiosity about the working of things and his hidden land, love of the land. Then left, me thinking I was not enough to stop him going. Not enough has stayed with me, always doubting, beaten by my own questions. I said, don't beat on me, I ain't your girl. Already followed. I do not wish to go there. The spoils of war, the hidden tragedies, lifetimes later, still mourning for our family. My journey around the world, I'm now back in England in Shepherd's Bush, and I put a picture of Shepherd's Bush up there because whenever I talk to folks here, they always tell me about the fog and the rain and how awful it is, but the sun actually does shine in England every now and then. Yes, it does. We stayed at Aunt Gwen's for a little while, and I suppose we were refugees. It's very interesting, the labels that people give you, that you don't necessarily associate them with yourself. And then one day you realize, actually, well, I left the country in the middle of the war and I went to another country, so I guess that makes me a refugee. I was always much more interested in the title Misplaced Person. Those of you who know Bertolt Brecht's play regarding the label Misplaced Person, I always felt that somehow I'd been placed in a place that I never should have been. Like my whole life was turned around. So the one thing that happened when we got back to England was that my uncle and my mother reunited. So we lived at the top of an apartment building, and my uncle could be heard screaming, Celeste! Celeste! And my mother could be heard screaming, Claude! Claude! And they ran down the stairs, and they were happily reunited. So one good thing came out of the war, which is that my uncle and my sister got back together again. I'm going to cut now to my high school days. Because one of the things that you're always told when you're a person of color or an immigrant is that the people in the West are doing so much better than you. I don't know, anybody from somewhere there? Anybody else not from here originally? Everybody was born here? Okay. So when you read about Europe and America, it always seems that the education is so much better here. But the thing is, because we have to compete so hard to get an education in Nigeria, Myself and a girl called Ruja, who was from Yugoslavia, we were routinely put out of class because we knew too much. So we didn't really learn anything for all of our elementary school education. It was out of class because we knew all the answers. The good thing about that was it meant that I got into what was known as a good high school, the Burlington Girls Grammar School, and I was one of 5 black girls in the school. So I got to learn a little bit about being an outsider in that situation. The other thing that I came to understand is that there is a division between us as people. So when I got to England, the only time I ever had a physical fight was when a girl who was from the Caribbean told me that I wasn't African and that I shouldn't say that I was African. In fact, she said, "You ain't no African." And that was the only time that I actually had a physical fight in my whole life. So, I'm going to read Margaret Walker's For My People, which I think speaks to some of the conflicts that we deal with as a people. So we're going to do Eternally Inspiring. For my people everywhere, singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties and their blues. Their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knees humbly to an unseen power. For my people, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years, and the now years, and the maybe years. Washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, showing, digging, planting, pruning, patching, then dragging along, never gaining, never reaping, never showing, and never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust of Alabama backyards, playing, baptizing, preaching, and doctor, and jail, and soldier, and school, and mama, and cooking, and playhouse, and concert, and store, and here, and Miss Chumbi and company. For the cramped, bewildered years we went to school to learn to know the reasons why, and the answers to, and the people who, and the places where, and the days when, in the memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were black, and poor, and small, and separate, and nobody cared, and nobody wondered, and nobody understood. For the boys and girls who dream in spite of these things to be man and woman, to laugh and dance and sing and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and their children and then die of consumption and anemia and lynching. For my people thronging 47th Street in Chicago and Lenox Avenue in New York and Rampart Street in New Orleans. Lost, disinherited, dispossessed, and happy people filling the cabarets and taverns with other people's pockets, needing bread and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. For my people walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time, being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, drinking when hopeless, tied and shackled and tangled amongst ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us omnisciently and for my people blundering and groping and lounging in the dark of churches and schools and clubs and societies, associations and councils and committees and conventions, distressed and disturbed and diseased, devoured by the money-hungry, glory-preaching leeches, preyed on by facile force of state and fad and novelty, by false prophet and holy believer. For my people, standing, staring, trying to fashion a better way, from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all the faces, all the Adams and Eves and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation courage issue forward. Let the people loving freedom come together. Let the beauty full of healing and the strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirit and our blood. Let the martial songs be written, let the dirges disappear, let a race of men now rise and take control. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the time that I learned that I was black. Not that I didn't know I was black, but I went to a school that was predominantly white. Apart from one or two times when the N-word was used, I really didn't feel the impact of racism on a day-to-day basis. So one morning when I was about 18, I was a senior in my high school, so I stayed home and hung out with my mom, and she drove me to a different bus stop by her work. And so I got on the bus with my pass, and the bus driver took my pass, and he took my pouch, which had all of my money and everything that I was using to get to school. So I refused to get off the bus. So he drove me to a police station, and the police came out and put me in handcuffs and took me into a cell. I remained in the cell until, I think this was about 11 o'clock in the morning, so I remained in the cell till about 5 o'clock at night when my then boyfriend, Gordon, came to get me out. And the thing is that I sang in that cell at the top of my voice. I sang every song that I knew as loudly as I could. Yes, I did. I was in the basement. And now I know that that might not have been such a good idea, but I didn't know that at the time, so I did that. So when they came to charge me, they said that I had been traveling on an expired bus pass. And so I was actually formally charged, and I went to court. And the judge threw out 3 of the 4 charges. And then he asked me if I had sworn at the driver. And I told him a number of expletives that I had, including the fact that I thought that he was a racist pig. So I got a 3-month suspended sentence for going to school with my bus. Now that may not seem, given the kinds of things which happen to black folks on a regular basis, that may not seem like such a big deal. But it really opened my eyes to the privilege that I had in some ways. Because, you know, like the school secretary came to vouch for me that I was okay, and my mom was able to get a lawyer, and we were able to get rid of the charge. And eventually it was expunged. But that wasn't true for many of my friends in my neighborhood. And that was one of the things that was always hard, was that I went to a school that was very privileged, but then when I came home, I was in my neighborhood with my friends from elementary school, and they were subjected to this on a regular basis. So I would say to people that don't really know that much about the existence of black people in England, that we may not experience necessarily being shot, because for the most part the police don't carry guns, but there are other forms of terror, and right now in England the stabbing rate amongst black folks is really, really super serious. So just in terms of solidarity across the waters, I think it's important to try to share the reality of that. So I was going to tell you guys a lot more about my own personal history, but I think that I'm going to go to, let's see, we're on page 16. And one of the things that I did do when I was at university, I worked in a bookstore, and I worked in the record part of the bookstore. So I got to sample a lot of different types of music. So everyone from Al Jarreau to, let's see, Nina Simone and Betty Carter, and obviously Bob Marley at that time was an important part of our lives. And my brother and I started a group that was fighting for black people to have more rights in the arts. And we did a show at the Theatre Royal Stratford in England, and we opened with this song, which is Redemption Song. So anybody who knows Redemption Song or likes Redemption Song can join in. Okay.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever heard. Redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can be our minds. Have no fear or atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? All I ever had. Redemption song, redemption song, redemption song. These songs of freedom, redemption song.
Okay, so my journey continues. When I came down from university, I spent about 10 years working in various community organizations, and then I went back up to Bristol. I went to Bristol University. Once again, the ironies of going to a British slave port town. So the main road in Bristol is White Ladies Road, still is to this day. And the hill at the top is Black Boys Hill. So every day I would come down from Black Boys Hill along White Ladies Road and go to school. Needless to say, at some point, once again, as one of the few black people who was born and raised in England, it was kind of depressing to go to university to try to learn. I studied politics, economics, and sociology. And I really, really wanted to learn and understand something about why and how wars start. How you can be living your life perfectly happily one day, and the next day you're running and there's genocide. I really, really wanted to find out about that. But I found that the kind of mythology that was being told at university and the way that we were being studied as people didn't really gel with me and the reality that I knew. So I dropped out for like a semester, and luckily for me I had a professor who took his time to allow me to write my own questions. So I wrote my own questions and I answered them, and that's the way that I got my degree. When I came down from university, I started working with children first, and then I went to a club one day called Ronnie Scott's. Anybody know Ronnie Scott's in England? The famous jazz club. Okay, so my girlfriend Sarah took me to this club, and as I was driving around, I couldn't really find where the place was. So I'm driving around, and then I see my friend, and she's white, and there were like 20 black men standing around her. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And it turns out that they were the Sun Ra Orchestra. And so we went into the club, and I'm listening to this music. I've never heard anything like it. So we went upstairs to the disco, and then as we were coming back downstairs, I bumped into a person named Ahmed Addullah. And we had a drink. And I found out that he was born on the same day as my father, May 10th. And he found out that I wrote for a black arts magazine at that time called Outrage. So for the next 5 nights, in those days you used to have residencies at Ronnie Scott's for like a week. I don't know that they do that anymore necessarily. But from the very first day we spoke on the phone for like 2 hours a night. We talked about everything from the fact that Clarence Thomas was about to be elected to the Supreme Court, to Spike Lee's Jungle Fever. We just talked and talked and talked and talked. And then on the Friday we went out. And that was the beginning of a 27-year relationship. We were married 6 months. 6 months later. So, okay, so, but one of the things that happened before we got married is that Ahmed had something that happened in his family, and I'm going to ask him to just say a little bit about what happened. It's on page 18.
Arburg, Switzerland, March 29, 1992. A train depot of a town. We just arrived here from East Germany, where we performed at Dresden, Jena, and Leipzig. Someone said the hotel is right across the street. If you look straight ahead, you can't miss it. The town is in a valley surrounded by mountains. The hotel's lobby's wooden decor makes you feel at home immediately. For me, it's a rare pleasure to be in a comfortable dwelling while on the road. We're to wait in the lobby until all of the rooms are ready. While in a very relaxed and laid-back setting of this area, I receive a page for a long-distance call from London, where the new love in my life, Monique Ngozi Nri, is living. It's her birthday today. I intended to call her as soon as I had settled into my room. It's great to hear her voice, a blend of the Nigerian, Barbadian, and British background into which she'd been raised. I noticed a hesitancy in her voice as I jubilantly wish her happy birthday. While on the phone, I'm given my room key, and she suggests that I might want to go to my room as she has something important to tell me. What she said weakens me at the knees, a punch for which I have no defense. Are you sitting down, she asks. Why do I need to sit down? I couldn't reach you for the last couple of days. There was no way to contact you in East Germany. I don't know how to tell you this, but Ahmed, your mother passed away. I say nothing and then, oh no. 12 days before, on St. Patrick's Day, just as the orchestra was to leave from New York, at Monique's urging, I made a special trip to visit my parents. On my way to the airport, I stopped by to say hello, to give them some photos. Monique had taken some photos of them when she came during the Christmas holidays. That was the last time I saw my mother alive. After hanging up the phone, I somehow managed to find Sunrise room to tell him I want to cut the tour short due to these unexpected circumstances. I turned to leave his room and go outside and be in the open air in need of sunlight and nature's beauty. I turned left, walking toward the castle in the mountains, unable to hold back the tears streaming down my face amid the pathways and beautiful flowers, red, yellow, purple flowers on either side of a running brook. I walked across the footbridge, heading toward the castle, wondering how such a structure could have been built into a mountain. It's peaceful here, yet I'm lost and abandoned. In some ways, I know I should be in better control, but I have no full understanding of what's now transpiring and its impact on my life. We were to record on this night, and it will be Sunvar's last recording, appropriately called Destination Unknown.
So we had 2 weddings. One immediately, actually after Ahmed's mother's funeral. He had already asked me to marry him at the Christmas, and we decided to get married before I left for London. And we told no one except his sister Lorraine, who was there to witness. Afterwards, we went to the Odeon restaurant around the corner, and the director that Ahmed had recently worked with was there with his crew, and he ordered us a magnum of champagne, and the whole restaurant toasted the beginning of our marriage. So that was one of the many magical moments that we have had together over the last 27 years. The title of the article that I wrote about Ahmed is Who's the Real Ambassador? Taken from a Louis Armstrong song.
Actually, it's Dave Brubeck and Louis Armstrong, Carmen McCoy, and John Hendricks. Who's the real ambassador? It's evident that I was sent by government to take your place. All I do is play blues and beat the people face to face. I'll explain and make it plain. I represent the human race and don't pretend no more. Who's the real ambassador? Certain facts we can't ignore. In my humble way, I'm the U.S. state. Though I represent the government don't represent some others. We ain't to be concerned about the constitutionality. In our nation, segregation is a reality. Soon our only difference will be in personality. That's what I stand for. Who's the real ambassador? The real ambassador. Yeah.
Okay, so we had a Buddhist wedding also in England. And my next poem is dedicated to Lily Allen, Be Present, which is an organization that I worked with when I first came to New York. But the poem also talks a little bit about our Buddhist faith. When not a single word you said to me made any sense. I heard the words and laid them side by side in my head. I was not having any feelings, and your work was not my work. Now I struggle to remember what it was like when I did not understand. To be where others now are standing, bewildered, silent, wondering what, if anything, these words mean. In our faith, we do not have to understand the words, only believe, and I believe the roundness of the song which returns to me from a place far deeper than my present life. And as I sing my chant and feel the soft press of the dark walls, I sing. I want to go where the sun shines through and life is gay and free, where I love everybody and everybody loves me. Sometimes, in playing with the little ones, we invent a language all our own, and laugh and laugh and laugh. We speak because we dream, she said, and dream we do of mystery and other langues. Moi, je veux rester ici pas longtemps, encore une fois la même chose. We share a joke in any language and smile across humanity. This language, open arms and cuddle. So one of the things, it's fun that Tara just walked back in the room. So one of the things that caused us much pain over the first 10 years of our marriage was that we really wanted to have a baby to embody the love that we had for each other. And we tried quite hard, I think. And then we stopped trying. And when we stopped trying, she came. And she came on September 12th, 2001. So most of you will know that September 12th, 2001 came out of September 11th, 2001, and my lovely daughter made sure that I was already in hospital by the time those planes hit. And so I was out of harm's way, but Tara was 2 months premature, and so was in an incubator for about 2 months, which was a very scary time for us. But between us, we have this song, which is dedicated to Tara, and Ahmed has recorded a CD, which is Tara's song, and so we're going to sing this for you, baby.
Thanks, Mommy.
smile, her warm embrace. Tara is my girl. To see her face is an embrace. She is an angel's come to show us all the way. She is an angel's come to speak with us today. Tara is my girl. Her smile, her face, her warm embrace. Tara is my girl. To see her smile is an embrace. Is an angel's come to show us all the way. She is an angel's come to speak with us today.
Right to Love and Outer Space on page 22. And we're going to do the Sun Ra song. We have been working together, as I said at the beginning, for about 20 years. In March 2012, I believe Luis Reyes Rivera, who was our poet mate in diaspora, passed away, and he used to do a poem, The Womb of Night. And I'm just going to read one stanza of that as we do Love in Outer Space. And I want to acknowledge my good friend, Barbara.
to a lover like me and you. Sunrise and love, 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 everlasting. Sunrise and love everlasting. Speaks to me in metaphysical harmony. We move to celestial rhythms where outward and upward to the light and the mystery. Love for the world to see. Sunrise in outer space. Outer space. Love for everything.
Inside the face of space, the womb of shape unfolds in a uterus of silence, pulsing beneath the ultraviolet bowels of infrared refraction, like the muscles in the murmur of two who come together in the dark spark of a single sound. Inside the face of space, the womb of shape unfolds in a uterus of silence, pulsing beneath the ultraviolet bowels of infrared refraction, like the muscles in the murmur of two who come together in the dark spark of a single sound, intoned into a thought unstroked, yet wanting to be whole. Inside the womb of night, two lone waves echoing amidst the thrash and thrust of a glowing surge, growing with a pulsive passion, aching to be heard. A vibrant push, a paining joy, a throb, thriving, striving will to do, nurtured now by the light of night, in the rise of reach and range and fall of love in outer space. Thank you all very much for indulging me in my story.
We move to celestial rhythms where onward and outward to delight in the mystery. Sunrise and love for the world to see. Sunrise in outer space. Love for everything. Sunrise and face. Love for everything.